absence of any normal vetting or background check process for Donald Trump's nominees to run the U.S. government, we are hoping that a Rachell Maddows Show public servant announcement can maybe fill in some of the gaps. So here are 6 things to know about Donald Trump's pick to be the Director of National Intelligence. She is former Hawaii Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard. Thing number 1. First thing to know about Tulsi Gabbard is that she started off life as an anti-homosexuality activist, which is a thing you can be in your life. Tulsi Gabbard was homeschooled her whole life, except for 2 years she reportedly spent in the Philippines attending a Hare Krishna school run by disciples of the self-proclaimed guru that she and her family follow, a group that has defectors who say it's an abusive authoritarian cult. More on that in a moment. But while Tulsi Gabbard was being homeschooled in Hawaii, her dad was founding and leading a whole litany of anti-gay organizations in Hawaii. He even had an anti-gay radio show called Let's Talk Straight Hawaii. The whole point of the radio show, the whole point of every episode of the radio show was how terrible gay people are. Must have been an amazing show. Her father once flew from Hawaii all the way to North Carolina to lead a protest against there being a gay character on Dawson's Creek. He was very devoted to his cause. As part of her own anti-gay fervor, Tulsi Gabbard campaigned to ban gay people from getting married. She led a protest to ban gay people even from being allowed to have civil unions. She worked for an anti-gay organization that said gay people should be subjected to conversion therapy to cure them so they won't be gay anymore. Perhaps needless to say, but conversion therapy is neither therapy nor does it convert anyone. But that's thing number 1 to know about her. Thing number 2. After years in which the only thing she was known for was her anti-homosexuality activism, when Tulsi Gabbard decided to get into politics more broadly, when she decided to run for Congress as a Democrat in blue state Hawaii, she started apologizing for her anti-gay past, saying she had changed and she didn't believe any of those anti-gay things anymore. Now that she has left Democratic Party politics, Tulsi Gabbard has reverted back to form. She introduced an anti-trans bill just before she left Congress in 2020. A couple years later, she enthusiastically endorsed Ron DeSantis's Don't Say Gay bill in Florida. By 2023, she was given a speech at CPAC about gay people being nefarious child molesters. So yeah, she's back to her roots. She changed, then she just changed right back. That's thing number 2. Thing number 3, about that supposed cult thing. Tulsi Gabbard's family moved to Hawaii in 1983 to join the disciples of this self-proclaimed guru in Hawaii, whose name is Chris Butler. He had started an offshoot there of the Hare Krishna movement. Starting in the 1970s, Chris Butler's group made multiple efforts to get their members into politics, to get members of the group into elected office. Most of the time, those efforts failed after exposés in the local press that these candidates were all followers of the same mysterious Hare Krishna guru. But with Tulsi Gabbard, they finally made it. As the first one of his disciples really hit it big in politics, the guru, Chris Butler, told the New Yorker magazine that it was like a music teacher who, quote, taught one of his students cello, and oh, this student of mine is now playing cello in the Philharmonic Orchestra. He said, quote, and it's beautiful. That same New Yorker profile reports, quote, some former members portrayed themselves as survivors of an abusive cult. Quote, defectors tell stories of children discouraged by Butler from attending secular schools, of followers forbidden to speak publicly about the group, of returning travelers quarantined for days lest they transmit a contagious disease to Chris Butler, of devotees lying prostrate whenever he entered the room, or adding bits of his nail clippings to their food, or eating spoonfuls of sand that he had walked upon. For her part, Tulsi Gabbard says, it's not a cult, definitely not. That's thing number 3. Thing number 4. When Tulsi Gabbard ran for the Democratic nomination for President of the United States in the 2020 election, she literally moved to the state of New Hampshire ahead of the primary there. She rented a house in New Hampshire and moved in. She nevertheless only got 3% of the vote in New Hampshire. Tulsi Gabbard, perhaps it will not surprise you to hear this, proclaimed the 2020 presidential contest to be rigged against her, because otherwise, obviously, she'd be winning. She was endorsed for president by David Duke, the KKK leader, so, who knows, maybe we don't truly understand the depth of her support. Gabbard's bottom-of-the-barrel presidential campaign did take up a lot of her time, though, so much so that while she was campaigning, she missed 85% of the votes that happened in Congress. 85%. She so abandoned her congressional seat during that campaign that there were high-profile calls from Democrats in Hawaii that she should just make it official and resign her seat so her constituents could put somebody in there who was actually going to show up and do the job. Tulsi Gabbard did not resign. She did make it to work for one important vote-ish. She did make it to work for Donald Trump's first impeachment. And that was kind of a strange thing for her to go out of her way to appear in Washington for, because she ended up being the only member of the House who voted on the first Trump impeachment, but she refused to vote yes or no. She did show up for that vote, but she just voted present. That's thing number 4. Thing number 5. It's the Russia thing. You've probably heard something about this since Donald Trump announced that he wants to make her Director of National Intelligence. You might have seen quotes like this one emerging on Capitol Hill once Trump announced that he was picking her. Quote, "Behind closed doors, people think she might be compromised. Like, it's not hyperbole. There are members of our conference who think she is a Russian asset," said the Republican Senate aide. Tulsi Gabbard has insisted over and over again that she's definitely not a Russian asset. She has no idea why people keep saying that. That said, Russian state media has described her as a, quote, Russian agent. They've also described her as our, quote, girlfriend. Russian state media also lost their minds with happiness when Donald Trump named Tulsi Gabbard for the national intelligence job. Russian state TV put together a long, detailed, many-part sizzle reel of all the TV appearances in which she has repeated Kremlin talking points. In 2015, Tulsi Gabbard took a trip to Europe with the most pro-Russia member of Congress maybe ever, a man named Dana Rohrabacher. Rohrabacher brought Tulsi Gabbard with him overseas, and there she met with the Russian-supported military dictator of Egypt. Gabbard also famously has defended and met with the Russian-supported dictator of Syria when he used poison gas against his own people. She said it was probably a false flag attack carried out by the opposition just to make him look bad. She later had to pay back the money she spent to go meet the dictator when it emerged that a political party that supports him had paid for her trip. She praised Vladimir Putin for sending in the Russian military to prop up that Syrian dictator in that country's civil war. She's also praised Russia for sending its military to invade Ukraine. She has repeated fake Kremlin talking points, blaming NATO for that invasion, saying there were U.S. biolabs in Ukraine and Ukraine's a bunch of Nazis and all the rest of those Kremlin talking points. Her foreign travel and foreign contacts have been eyebrow-raising enough within the U.S. government that earlier this year she was put on a TSA watch list called Quiet Skies, which is something that subjects you to extra screening by air marshals when you fly. She got put on that watch list, and then Donald Trump nominated her to be Director of National Intelligence. So that's thing number 5. And finally, thing number 6. So the law that created this job, the Director of National Intelligence job, that statute says that any person who's appointed to that job, quote, shall have extensive national security experience. Shall have. That's like a requirement for the job. The first person appointed Director of National Intelligence was a 5-time U.S. ambassador. Every subsequent Director of National Intelligence confirmed by the Senate has been an ambassador or a flag-rank military officer with significant experience in intelligence. They've all sort of met the criteria. Tulsi Gabbard, on the other hand, she has been a congresswoman and a famous conspiracy theorist, and she's been a mid-level officer in the National Guard. And that's it. She has no experience running any large organization of any kind, or even holding a senior level job in any large organization of any kind. I mean, we don't know if she had some sort of high rank in the Hare Krishna group. I don't know if they have ranks other than the guru guy at the top, where, you know, eating the toenail clippings and eating spoonfuls of sand that he's trod upon. I mean, that makes him kind of senior. I don't know if there are other senior gigs in that, or if she has one. That said, Tulsi Gabbard has started a lot of PACs, political action committees, way more than your average member of Congress. She has a whole bunch of them. And as fundraising vehicles, they've apparently been very effective. She's raised a lot of money, but it's murky where all the money has been going. The vast majority of it appears to have not gone to political campaigns, which is what PACs are supposedly for. That said, all her various PACs and indeed a charity she recently started, they are all being managed by real financial professionals. All of her PACs, for example, share the same treasurer. It's the same treasurer who worked for George Santos. George Santos, who was expelled from Congress and is currently awaiting sentencing after being convicted on multiple wire fraud and identity theft charges. So at least you know you're in good hands. That's reassuring. And that's 6 things to know about your potential new Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard. This has been a Rachell Maddows Show public servant announcement.